Thank you very much. We'll now hear from the City of Hamilton.
Thank you. I am Steve Robichaud, the General Manager of the Planning and Economic Development Department, and joining me today is Anita Fayback, the Chief Planner for the City of Hamilton. Hamilton is committed to streamlining the approvals process to allow for new construction to occur. The City has been identified by the province as a fast-growing municipality. In February 2023, the City signed the Provincial Housing Pledge and committed to putting in place a planning framework that will allow for the construction of 47,000 new units by 2031. In 2023, the City exceeded the provincial housing target by 20%, or nearly 700 units. I would like to acknowledge that Bill 185 responds to issues and concerns the City of Hamilton has previously commented on with respect to the Development Charges Act and the Planning Act in Bills 23 and 109. The City supports those changes in Bill 185 that will help better utilize existing infrastructure through the proposed changes around sewer allocation policies and allowing for the City to establish what is commonly referred to as a use-it-or-lose-it framework. Today, I will be focusing on three main areas: the processing of development applications, public involvement in the planning process, and urban boundary expansions. Over the last few years, the City has worked hard to improve the planning process. Since January 2023, the City has met the 60, 90, and 120-day timeframe targets for 100% of the applications received. The success of the City is tied to the formal consultation process that has been in place for nearly 20 years. Having a robust formal consultation process which allows for discussions with the applicant and City staff, combined with an inclusive public engagement process, has resulted in timely decision-making and avoided appeals. The City has created a process where within 6 to 8 weeks of making a formal consultation request, the applicant knows what is required for complete application. It is up to the applicant to move as quickly as they wish to make their application. The formal consultation process helps to resolve issues and provides applicants with staff's position on the merits of the application before they make a formal proposal. The proposed changes in Bill 185 to an optional formal consultation process are not supported by the City of Hamilton. The Planning Act requires that applicants must submit the required and other information with their development application. The other information is identified at the formal consultation stage. Removing the requirement for proponents to consult with the City on the merits of a proposal, which is what is required to be submitted with a complete application and a public engagement strategy, will result in confusion and delay. Proponents will not know what other information requirements will be for a complete application. The City includes community engagement and for applicants to demonstrate how the public feedback has been incorporated into their proposal as part of the other required information. Early and effective engagement is an important step in the process to identify issues and work to a positive resolution of issues and concerns. The City was also moving forward with a framework on how and when applicants consult with Indigenous communities as part of a complete application. The City is concerned that making pre-consultation optional will create confusion on what is needed, leading to an application being deemed incomplete, which will lead to the delay in building new homes. In addition, in the City's ERO submission, the City has expressed concerns with removing the ability to require parking, especially AODA-compliant parking, within MTSA areas, and exempting universities from the planning process because this could result in unplanning and inappropriate development happening, which would cause the potential for land use conflicts or create unplanned demand for municipal services such as transit or wastewater upgrades. The City requests that the province not proceed with the proposed legislative changes around formal consultation, parking around MTSAs, and exempting universities from the planning process. Bill 185 proposes to remove third-party appeal rights relating to official plans and zoning bylaws. Based on our review of appeals in the City of Hamilton, the vast majority of appeals to the OLT are for non-decision of legacy files that predate Bill 109. Over the last number of years, public participation in the land use planning system has been diminished to the point where, through Bill 23 and 185, the public will have no appeal rights for most development applications. Public engagement is an important part of the planning process and is beneficial to positive planning outcomes. The City supports meaningful public consultation with communities and for the ability of members in the community to participate in appeals, particularly third-party appeals. The City requests that the province not proceed with the proposed legislative changes around third-party appeals. Hamilton is projected to grow by over 100,000 households over the next 25 years. The City has proactively been updating the zoning bylaw to allow for development and redevelopment to proceed as of right to accommodate growth. Over the last 20 years, the City has issued building permits to allow 30,000 new units to be constructed. As a result of the City's proactive approach to making land shovel-ready, the unit supply within the City of Hamilton has increased by 36% over the last 10 years. And we are doing more. As a result of the recently adopted new zoning regulations affecting over 90,000 properties in Hamilton, accessory units, detached accessory units, semi-detached dwellings, triplexes, fourplexes, and street townhouses are now permitted in any low-density residential area. By doing so, the city has significantly increased opportunities to create additional housing within the existing urban area. To support these land use changes, the city has also lowered and in some cases eliminated the requirement for residential parking. Through Bill 150, by approving Council's decision on a firm urban boundary, the Minister has effectively accepted the city's growth strategy that focuses on intensification, reurbanization, and renewal. The fastest way to build new housing is to follow the official plan and zoning bylaw regulations that the city has put in place and continues to monitor and update these regulations to ensure that lands are pre-approved for development and respond to changing market conditions. However, Bill 185, when read with the new PPS, results in a shift from an intensification-first approach to a greenfield-first approach. According to a report prepared by Hamilton's local home builders, affordability, tenure, and a mismatch between investor units and family-friendly units are the major constraints on meeting housing needs in Hamilton. The proposed changes in Bill 185 will allow landowners to skip the formal consultation process, apply for an urban boundary expansion, and appeal it to the Ontario Land Tribunal in 120 days. 120 days is simply not enough time to receive, review, and assess an urban boundary expansion to ensure that the proposal is fair, sustainable, and fiscally prudent. Proceeding with Bill 185 before the city has been able to establish submission requirements or evaluation criteria in the official plan implemented through a formal consultation process means that proponents will drive the process. This will significantly erode the city's ability to make land use decisions based on the city's growth strategy, public engagement, local conditions, and municipal priorities. This will create uncertainty in the terms of design and delivery of both hard infrastructure and community services required for complete communities. The city requests that the province not proceed with the proposed legislative changes and policy changes in the policy statement around urban boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. That concludes the presentations. We'll now start the first round of questions, and we'll start with the official opposition. MPP Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to direct my questions to Mr. Robichaud. It's nice to see you here today and also to see Ms. Fayback. I want to start by commending the work that your planning department has done, actually all the planning departments across the province of Ontario that have done in response to what I would just call as being actual planning chaos, that we've seen because of the government's unthought out changes and rollbacks. If we could just recap really quickly, we saw forced urban boundary expansions, we saw a slew of MZOs, we had, in Hamilton, I'm sure in other jurisdictions, the minister himself meddled in the provincial planning documents by rezoning individual parcels of land. It was unheard of. Then we have the government spending a lot of time rolling back all those decisions, losing precious time in building, helping home builders to build the homes that we need. And then now we're faced with this new bill that, again, I would say has been rushed to the legislature. And I want to say to you that despite all of these changes you have soldiered on, I am going to underscore the fact that you pledged, agreed to the province's pledge to build 47,000 units, homes. You exceeded that target, but let's be clear, you met that target within the existing urban boundaries. And so can you just talk to me to confirm that is true, that was met within the existing urban boundaries, and that you and just talk a little bit about what must have been difficult and resource draining in your department, your city's ability to keep up with all these changes.
That is correct. Thank you. The city did meet the housing pledge target for 2023 based on redevelopment and new development occurring within the established urban area. The changes do require that we stop work we are doing on, assess those changes, and then figure out what are the next steps moving forward. And that can inform both the development of infrastructure master plans as well as our financing strategy, because those land use changes do have other and broader implications that have to be assessed. And then many times we have done work, stopped that work, had to start in a new direction, stopped that work, resumed new work, and that is one of the issues that we have, and it does distract from staff resources. We will have to take staff off of development applications to respond to provincial changes or policy changes or shifts, and then that means that development applications are not proceeding because we do have finite staff resources. Thank you.
So that start, and waste of resources and time applies to I would say, the public service, and certainly, as legislators. I mean, we have wasted so much time in this legislature debating bills, going to committee, putting forward good amendments that were voted down by the government's majority, and then having them now to spend time, looking at another bill. And in all of this time where we're spinning our wheels, we are not building the homes that we need. In fact, I believe that building starts have gone down under this government. And as we've heard from the Ontario Home Builders Association, they're struggling as well. I mean, we need home builders to have some sense of certainty, because we rely on them to build our homes. So they're an important part of planning in Ontario. And so I want to direct your attention to what you brought up, which is, unplanned demand for infrastructure. And so it's my understanding with Bill 185 that anyone can request the city, or developer can request the city at any time during your planning cycle to have properties, urban boundaries expanded, and that the 120 days of that would take to go to the OLT and have the decision made gives you. You'll speak to this. It gives you absolutely no ability to plan for orderly, affordable expansion of our infrastructure services, like roads, like sewers, like schools, like fire stations. So can you talk about how the city of Hamilton is managing this, given that we already have a significant infrastructure deficit because of downloading?
Thank you. So the city is committed to an integrated planning approach where we bring land use planning, infrastructure planning, and the financial strategy, both hard and soft infrastructure, to the approach to dealing with managing growth within the city of Hamilton. And our current infrastructure integrated planning processes is predicated on the current official plan designations, which is a firm urban boundary. In the event, as I indicated, that an application comes forward for an urban boundary expansion, that will require a diversion of staff resources to assess that application, but 120 days is insufficient, in my opinion, and experience in processing very complex applications. And once that gets appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, then staff resources will have to focus on defending the Council's position on a firm urban boundary at the Ontario Land Tribunal, which will divert staff away from dealing with those broader strategic master plan and infrastructure plans, as well as being very difficult from a financial perspective to understand where growth will occur and fully assessing the implications of that growth. That is why the current process of where the municipality leads that MCR comprehensive planning process is a policy-driven approach, which is much more preferred. The same goes to trying to balance intensification and greenfield development and getting that balance correct based on the carrying capacity of the municipality to advance those matters in a timely fashion. Thank you.
How much time, Chair? Just so I...
1.4.
Oh, great. 1.4?
1.4.
Oh. So what's left here is that I would like to say that, you talked about that this is devolving into proponents driving the planning process at municipalities, Hamilton and across the province, but it also speaks to the fact that the OLT really is in charge of planning. So the concern is, given that we've seen so many insiders giving preferential treatment, so many insiders being appointed to these tribunals, we now have unelected, unaccountable OLT members that essentially will be making land use decisions in this province. And I would ask you, and I know it's going to be difficult to answer this, but can you just talk about your concern that the good planning process that you have put in place will now be piecemeal and made by both proponents or OLT that may not have any expertise in planning?
The city's concern, that is the concern of the city, that decisions will be made by a third party. And just to put it in context, there is nothing in Ontario in law that requires the owner of the land to be the person applying for an official plan amendment and urban boundary expansion. A developer could apply for a secondary plan affecting my property should council, and I may not realize it, the council may not realize that not all of the landowners are in agreement or aware of it. That could be approved by council. The landowners would have no right to appeal. That is one of the concerns that we have by removing the third-party appeal rights from the process, so that I could end up having the school, the park, and the stormwater management pond put on my property. It may represent good engineering or good best practice, but I would not be able to challenge that.
Thank you very much. That concludes the time for the question. We'll